It's Rhema Afternoons. Now, for many of us, we may never have visited Mexico, or maybe we have, but it's certainly a place where I'm a little curious about heading to. There just seems to be so many great things there. But for many Mexicans, and particularly Mexicans who are Christian, they are facing a particularly hard time at the moment. Joining me on the show to tell us more, Kmy Denton from Open Doors. Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Di. Thanks for having me today.
So let's talk about the situation in Mexico, where there appears to be this growing wave of violence. What's happening?
Absolutely. It's actually so heartbreaking. There's quite a lot of violence erupting in the face of the drug cartels. It's a violence that seems to be sweeping through the country from north to south, almost unstoppable at this point.
Mm.
Um, from our research on the ground, we can see that there's at least one drug cartel present in each state, hundreds there, and it's something that not many people would be kept safe from.
Mm. So, what when you talk about this growing spread of violence, what sort of things are we looking at? Is it gang to gang, or is it starting to seep into just communities as well?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there will always be that gang to gang violence, it unfortunately doesn't stop there. It's affected, I would say, any person who would find themselves living in Mexico, but at this point, it's particularly affecting the Christians, as the cartels have kind of started to aim their ways at them, as the Christians in the community, the pastors, the leaders across the country are doing what we do as Jesus lovers. They're helping the community. They're particularly focusing their efforts on widows or single moms and children, as there's a lot of, unfortunately, through the violence and different circumstances that the country is dealing with, there's a lot of men not present there. And so a lot of the Christians and the churches are going in and serving those families. And what they've found is being directly aimed at or attacked for wanting to be able to help, particularly the children. I think the most shocking thing that's come out of the research we've seen recently is that, and one of our missionaries, a missionary in Mexico, he shared with our researchers there that they're being watched and targeted because they're serving children, and the children are seen as a human resource for the cartels. The cartels, the drug cartels, are seeing these children as potential traffickers of drugs, of being able to continue with the violence and become themselves involved in these gangs. And so, unfortunately, they're being targeted, which means in turn, the Christians are a huge threat to these drug cartels.
I mean, that is really, really scary stuff. So for those Christians who are helping out, their very own lives are often put in danger. So, in that situation, what are people doing?
It's a great question. I think there's a lot of prayer happening. I think the Christians, the church, are doing the best they can, as they're trying to actually stay where they can stay. But the sad thing that we've seen from many people and pastors, just to be able to keep their families safe, as there's forced internal displacement. There's, because of the death threats and the torture that comes with this I guess, being in view of the cartel, we've seen hundreds. And I think our latest that we saw, there's been 100 evangelical churches that have closed their doors to protect the community of believers, to protect the pastors, and to protect the people. In Chiapas state alone, there's been more than 3,000 people that have had to leave their homes because of the constant clash with the criminal groups fighting for territory. And many times the Christians are probably trying to keep their homes. They have probably found themselves caught up with the fighting as in trying to keep their families safe. And it's just at this time, such a violent and unstable situation.
And, they've got their presidential elections happening soon as well. So does that mean there's more uncertainty out there?
I believe so. I feel from what we've seen from, I guess, again, I can only speak from what our Open Doors researchers on the ground have been a part of, and the efforts we make to actually help in person. There's a number of things we're trying to do on the ground. They actually believe this situation is only going to get worse. Political instability, the rise in tension and conflict, obviously inflation, everything that's affecting the entire world. It's becoming the perfect storm for all Mexicans. And our researcher, his name's Jorge Jimenez, he says that they believe it will only get worse, as it's significantly affecting everyone from politicians all the way through the government. And what they've also seen is that there's not unfortunately, there's not a strong, hard stance politically towards the violence. So it's almost as there's a bit of a blind eye being turned to it. So I think that people feel very helpless, which is why our prayers are so strong and so important to be able to, we maybe can't go there and do anything physically. We maybe can't visit Mexico or do more that we'd want to do in person, but we can pray, and prayer is so powerful. And it is actually one of the things that the church in Mexico are asking us to do, is to pray for them and to pray with them.
Yeah, and so important. So, for people listening today, if they're going to take a moment, maybe they'll do so right now. What specifically would you encourage them to pray for?
Thanks for asking, Di. Definitely, let's together we can pray for the protection of Christians who are vulnerable to this hostility. We can pray for God just to strengthen and encourage the church in Mexico. God is in control, and he's doing beautiful and mighty things through his people. And let's just pray for strength and encouragement for them today, to not lose heart, for God to strengthen his people. And I think maybe lastly is even the religion of Mexico is actually Christianity. There's just a lot of mix between traditional cultural religion that's guises, it's under the guise of Christianity. But I think just praying that the indigenous groups to Mexico would see value in Christians and see the beauty and how much the Christians add to community, that they're not a threat, and that we can see the light of Christ shine strong, especially with everything that's happening. We see the light of Christ shining strong for his people.
Yeah. Kmy, thank you so much. My heart breaks for the people of Mexico hearing that today. So let's continue to pray for the people, for Christians in that part of the world. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. People can find out more about the work of Open Doors. I mean, lots of different ways, social media, but also your website.
Absolutely. You can find us at opendoors.org.nz. And you can find, we are Open Doors Australia, New Zealand. You can find more on our socials. Look us up, Open Doors NZ, and then there's AU. And there's always updates, prayer news updates. And there's also a lot of beautiful, the other side of prayer, the hope-filled things that God's doing across the earth. It's really awesome.
Yeah, lovely to hear. Hey, thanks again, Kmy.
Thank you so much, Di. Take care.
Thanks for joining us on Rhema. Now, if you found value in today's content, hit that like button. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel with the subscribe button. This really helps us to continue to produce more quality content for you. And hey, if you'd like to stay updated and never miss any of our future videos, ring that notification bell as well. Don't forget to follow us on our other socials, which are in the description below. And until then, stay tuned.